There's a part of me that really regrets having not played Ōkami sooner. It's a PS2 game that I'd always heard great things about, but at the time it had avoided my radar, and I think by that point my PS2 had been stolen. I had made the switch over to the Xbox 360, but boy am I glad that I have finally taken the leap and played it, because my god, Ōkami HD is one of the most beautiful games I've ever played. Heavily stylized, taking inspiration from Japanese art styles such as sumi-e ink wash painting, Japanese watercolour painting, and ukiyo-e wood carvings. The colourful art style and celestial brush mechanic aren't just decorative, but also a narrative device that enhances the storytelling and thematic depth. Drawing heavily from Japanese mythology, folklore, and nature, Ōkami's central theme revolves around restoration and renewal. Amaterasu, the game's main protagonist, must cleanse the land of darkness and corruption, bringing back life and vitality to nature. While on this quest, Ōkami's array of characters allows it to discuss themes of courage, connection to nature, the power of creativity, redemption, and forgiveness. It's these themes, all intertwined and working to reinforce the others, tell the story in a way that I felt resonated quite deeply, and almost 17 years later, still connects to today's world. Maybe more so than previously, given the rise of climate change and the loss of biodiversity we are facing in many parts of the world. Ōkami tells the story of Amaterasu, a wolf goddess who takes the form of a white wolf, as she embarks on a quest to save the land of Nippon from darkness and chaos. The game begins with Amaterasu waking from a long slumber to find that the world has been engulfed in darkness by the return of the ancient demon Orochi. With the help of a wandering artist named Isun, who rides on her back, Amaterasu sets out to restore the land to its former glory and defeat Orochi. Along the way, she encounters a colourful cast of characters, including other gods and mythical creatures, who aid her on her journey. Using her divine powers and the celestial brush, Amaterasu battles demons, solves puzzles, and purifies the land, ultimately restoring balance and harmony to Nippon. Throughout her quest, Amaterasu learns about her own past and the significance of her role as the sun goddess. She faces various challenges and confronts powerful enemies, including Orochi and the dark forces manipulating the world. Amaterasu is a silent protagonist, being that she's a wolf. So outside of Isun, the narrative relies heavily on Amaterasu's body language, mannerisms, expressions, and actions. To do this, the game heavily relies on cartoonish visual language, slapstick humour, and its music. And it does it exceptionally well. These aspects are never felt forced, and the simplicity of elements allow the narrative to breathe by itself, and so the connection to the characters and themes is a whole natural one. Though there were moments I think maybe haven't aged well, and we'll get into some criticism later, Ōkami manages to tell its story with ease, creating a tale that has humour and action, but in the end is endearing and heartfelt. As you explore the beautiful game world, there are a range of other tasks to complete alongside the tasks that progress the story. Whether defeating roaming enemies in small battles, collecting chests, unlocking hidden areas, feeding wild animals, or restoring withered trees to life, every task feels like a small accomplishment that contributes to the overarching story, as opposed to side chores that have no real connection to anything else that you're doing, other than to pad the game time. The balance between these tasks feels finely tuned. You never feel pigeonholed into doing anything particular task, and so each feels purposeful and rewarding. This nicely draws us to the celestial brush mechanic. Holding R1 and square lets you draw specific symbols such as circles or lines, which trigger various effects when used. For example, drawing a circle around a dead tree can bring it back to life, while a circle with a line sticking out of the top will place a bomb on the ground, while drawing a straight line across an enemy will slash them with a divine blade. The celestial brush gives access to a wide range of abilities, and throughout the game you'll acquire new brush techniques, each with its own unique powers and applications. Mastering the celestial brush is essential for progressing through the game, as many obstacles and challenges require you to use it, and many inaccessible items or areas will require you to come back with a new stroke to access them. The game actually does a really good job of balancing progress into new areas versus utilising new abilities in old areas. Now that's not necessarily with its downsides. I personally don't normally enjoy too much backtracking in games. It can often feel stale, but with Ōkami it's a back and forth that feels like a natural development of the world you inhabit. Ōkami guides players to objectives through a journal that relays the last conversation you had with the last point of contact for that mission. That conversation will have a few words or a line of text that will clue you into what to do next, and for the most part, your next steps are fairly intuitive, but there are occasions where I didn't find them to be quite as intuitive as I would have liked. Part of the fun of games of this era with this objective or quest style is figuring out what to do next, but that fun balances on a thin line between a fun puzzle and a frustrating one. For me, there are one or two points in the story where what I needed to do was clear, but the specific way to trigger the story to progress wasn't as clear or as intuitive as it could have been, and the balance tipped to frustrating as I spent more time running over the map, exploring every little nook and cranny, speaking to everyone I could to try and figure out the specific thing to do before stumbling across the solution. Your mileage of course will vary on something like this, and I can't criticise Ōkami too harshly as I do miss the obvious in front of me all the time, but those one or two moments where it felt like it went from a fun puzzle to a frustrating one were the only moments I wasn't really enjoying my time playing. Of the other minor criticisms I had of the game while playing was some of the out of place sexualization and misogyny towards the female characters. In particular, this was done by Isun, whose first appearance is popping out of the cleavage of a forest goddess. I think it was supposed to contribute to Isun's personality as an endearing asshole, but I think as a player in 2024 it particularly didn't land, as he just comes across as a bit of an arsehole. Though there is some growth in him, it's too little too late to justify his gross characterization. If he were a side character, I could stomach it and would probably enjoy seeing his growth, but for most of the game, Isun speaks to characters on your behalf, and that is hard to reconcile. Again, this is a minor criticism. In the end, though I didn't really enjoy Isun as a character, it didn't actually detract too heavily from my overall enjoyment of the game as a whole, as the moments Isun wasn't being a cock made up for it in spades. And I also have to cut some slack for the game being a product of its time. Moving on, the combat is simple, fun and fluid. When you encounter a roaming enemy or boss in the world, a small arena will encircle you for the duration of combat. Amaterasu can equip various primary and secondary weapons that all have different abilities. One might give you access to a ranged attack, another to a shield block. In conjunction with these attacks, Amaterasu can employ the Celestial Brush to exploit weaknesses and do devastating damage. Once combat has been mastered, it becomes a satisfying combo of regular attacks and Celestial Brush strikes to quickly decimate opponents. Which is good because combat is scored based on speed and damage output, awarding bonus yen that can then be used to purchase additional items, weapons and combat moves to bolster your offense. Overall, Ōkami's enduring charm lies in its seamless fusion of art, storytelling and gameplay, making it a timeless classic worth experiencing for both its beauty and its depth. While it's hard to argue against Ōkami's status as one of the greatest games of all time, does have some very small imperfections that I think mostly stem from design trends from its release and evolving social views. Despite those slight imperfections, the game is pretty darn close to being perfect, and I think it absolutely deserves a final rating of no less than 9.8. That was my review of Ōkami. Thank you very much for watching. If you have any thoughts about the review or thoughts about Ōkami, please feel free to leave a comment below. Help the algorithm, help the video get found, help the channel get found. The next review is going to be of Dave the Diver. That's going to be in approximately 2 weeks' time. I am going on holiday, so there might be a little bit of a delay there. If you did enjoy the video, if you want to see that next review, if you want to see more, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. It is greatly appreciated. And thank you for your time.